There is one garden trick so simple, so effective, and yet so overlooked that it can turn even the laziest composting system into a powerhouse of fertility. Imagine a compost bin that never needs to be turned, never needs hauling, and that literally works itself into your soil while feeding your plants. Better yet, picture an underground hotel, built not for people, but for the hardest workers in your garden, earthworms. With nothing more than a tube, a few scraps, and the willingness to let nature take the lead, you can create what gardeners have started calling a worm hotel. And the results are stunning. Within weeks, the soil around your plants comes alive, roots push deeper, and microbial activity surges, all powered by the tireless work of worms that move in and out of your buried compost station. Stay with this, because in the next minute you'll see how this one trick can change the way you compost forever. Why worms are the best garden workers. Before we dive into how to make a worm hotel, it's important to understand why worms are the centerpiece of this idea. Worms don't just break down organic matter, they restructure soil in ways no tool can mimic. As they tunnel, they aerate the ground, creating channels for air, water, and roots. Every bit of material they eat gets passed back as castings, little nuggets of concentrated plant nutrition bound with beneficial microbes. These castings are richer in nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, calcium, and magnesium than almost any other natural soil amendment. When worms are encouraged to live and feed right inside your beds, they turn food waste directly into this fertilizer without you lifting a shovel. The brilliance of the worm hotel is that it makes the worm's job easier. Instead of spreading scraps across the surface or piling them in a compost heap, you place the food right where the worms want it, in a protected, moist environment. They can come and go as they please, carrying nutrients with them into the surrounding soil. In effect, you've built them a restaurant and shelter rolled into one, and in return they give your garden a constant supply of fertility. Building the worm hotel. So, at its core, the worm hotel is, well, simply a tube or container that's sunk into your garden soil. The most common version, uses a section of PVC pipe, or perhaps a large plastic pot with holes drilled into the sides and bottom. The holes are crucial as they allow worms to crawl in and out while letting moisture drain freely. The tube is then buried vertically into the soil, leaving just the top exposed like a small chimney. A lid or covering helps keep pests out and prevents the contents from drying too quickly. So, to start the hotel, you add a bedding layer, like shredded paper-dried leaves or even a bit of compost, and then you just begin dropping in kitchen scraps such as fruit peels, coffee grounds, and vegetable trimmings. Worms quickly sniff out the food and move in, establishing a feeding station right in your bed. Over time, the contents shrink as they are consumed and worked into the soil. All you have to do is top it up occasionally with new scraps. Unlike a compost pile that needs balancing between greens and browns, a worm hotel can handle small additions regularly. The worms themselves do the balancing act, adjusting their feeding rate and leaving behind a rich humus that plants thrive on. How the system transforms soil. What makes the worm hotel stand out is not just the decomposition of food scraps, but the way nutrients are distributed underground. Instead of waiting for finished compost to be added later, nutrients leak slowly and steadily into the root zone. The constant presence of decomposing matter also fuels microbial life, creating a micro-ecosystem right around your crops. This is especially powerful in poor or compacted soils, As worms travel in and out of the hotel, they transport organic matter deeper into the ground, undoing compaction over time. Their tunnels allow plant roots to follow paths they couldn't otherwise penetrate. The end result is a soil that breathes, drains well, and holds moisture, all without mechanical tilling. For gardeners dealing with clay-heavy beds or sandy soils that don't hold water, the Worm Hotel acts as a natural soil doctor, gradually shifting conditions toward balance. Managing the Worm Hotel through the seasons. A big advantage of this system is its low maintenance. In spring and summer, when decomposition is fastest, scraps can be added weekly or even more often, depending on how quickly the contents shrink down. During the cooler months, worms actually slow their feeding, but the buried scraps still keep breaking down just a bit more slowly. Covering the top with a mulch layer really helps regulate the temperature and, honestly, it keeps the interior from drying out. For folks in very cold regions, worm hotels can be installed in raised beds or even insulated with straw to help keep worms active longer into the winter. In hot climates, the depth of the hotel provides natural cooling, but shading the exposed top may be necessary to prevent overheating. Because the system is modular, you can add more hotels to larger beds or scale back to just one or two for smaller gardens. The flexibility makes it a fit for nearly any setup, from urban backyards to homestead plots. The benefits go beyond just composting. While the immediate benefit is obvious, free, ongoing fertilizer delivered right to plant roots, the Worm Hotel has ripple effects across the whole garden. Plants growing near a hotel show more vigor, often with deeper green foliage and stronger root systems. Water retention improves, meaning less irrigation is needed. Because the system encourages fungal networks to thrive alongside worm activity, soil structure becomes more stable, resisting erosion during heavy rains. On top of that, the reduction in kitchen waste is significant. Instead of sending scraps to landfill or struggling with a large compost heap, you recycle them seamlessly back into the ground. This makes the Worm Hotel not just a soil building technique, but a household waste solution as well. Families who have adopted it often find their garbage output shrinking dramatically while their gardens flourish. A trick that scales. Another reason the Worm Hotel is so compelling is that it can be scaled to suit any gardener. One simple tube may be enough for a small raised bed, while a series of them spaced across a larger garden can provide even distribution of nutrients. Some gardeners even create decorative versions, disguising the tops with wooden lids or stone covers so that the hotels blend into the landscape. Others use old clay pots inverted into the soil, taking advantage of their porous nature to let worms in from all sides. So, the principle remains the same, a consistent, accessible feeding hub that worms maintain for you. This method, also adapts to different growing styles. Whether you favor intensive vegetable plots, orchard plantings, or ornamental gardens, a Worm Hotel delivers fertility in place without disturbing the soil ecosystem. It works especially well in no-dig systems, where keeping soil layers intact is really key to long-term health. So instead of, importing fertility from outside, you create a closed loop where waste becomes a resource and soil life does the rest. The Worm Hotel is honestly one of those rare gardening tricks that's both incredibly simple and profoundly effective. It really requires almost no effort once you set it up, yet it creates this living cycle of decomposition, nutrient release, and soil building right where your plants need it most. By providing worms with a steady food source and a safe environment, you basically recruit them as permanent residents and workers in your garden. And unlike store-bought fertilizers, which are, consumed quickly and fade away, the worm hotel just keeps on giving season after season, as long as you continue feeding it scraps. If you want healthier soil, stronger plants, and honestly, an easier way to compost, this is a method worth trying. Start with just one tube, feed it regularly, and watch how the soil around it transforms. The change will be visible not just in the garden beds, but, honestly, in the way you look at food waste and fertility itself. If you found this guide helpful, make sure to subscribe to Hydrohaven for more soil-saving hacks and regenerative gardening methods. Share this with a fellow gardener who could use a simpler, smarter way to compost, and let's keep building living soil together.